Welcome to episode 92 of the Road is Dead podcast. I am Rob Curtis here in the studio with
Tim Strelecki,
Leah Sanda,
and joined in Colorado by
Mike Friedman.
And thank you all for joining us. A good week in cycling, I think. I got out and did a lot of riding. I've been feeling pretty good. I'm feeling better on the bike. I'm actually, I won't say I'm climbing because that would be an insult to all climbers. But, and notice I'm looking at you when I say that. But I'm getting comfortable on the bike again, and that's always a good feeling.
It is.
So I don't know. Mike, are you getting some riding in?
It's dipping a little bit. I've got a lot going on with summer camps coming up, so
True.
It's been dipping. I tried to get on Zwift last night because it was raining here, and my knee was hurting pretty quickly, so I hopped off. You got to know your limits.
Smart move.
But yeah, I've been trying to fit it in when I can. I did a ride the other day and had a great time on it. It was very freeing. Saw some people I haven't seen for a while, ridden with them in a little while, and yeah,
It's always a good feeling.
sick day on the bike.
And now I feel horrible for bringing this up because I obviously didn't ask Leah. Leah hasn't been able to get on the bike recently, and it's kind of a point of contention, and I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm looking forward to I'm coming out on the backside now of this health crisis, and I think I can get back on the bike. It's just going to be easy rides.
Can we formally say it's been a health crisis at this point?
Sure. I had a blood infection. I was in the hospital, and I am getting better, and I'm starting to feel better, and I have been given the okay by multiple doctors this week to get back on the bike. So
Fantastic news.
Yes. Scared the hell out of us, I can tell you
Now,
Yeah,
just
you and me both.
go slowly.
Yes.
Don't try to pick up where you
promise.
left
that. Yeah,
off.
don't be pushing intervals here.
No.
I feel the best I've felt in months.
No, trust me. Looking death in the face will definitely make you realize you need to take this seriously.
Yeah.
So you're saying you see me in the morning looking death in the face.
It is scary, Leah. It is scary. But Danny Pate won the world championships after being sick for like a month beforehand, lost a whole bunch of weight, had, recovered from all the training he'd done, and then boom, world champion. So, give it a week and then maybe see where you are.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know. Yeah, never know. So anyway, I wanted to jump in. Giro started this week. I have not watched any of it. I have to freely admit, although I am certain that the Giro is usually better watching than, say, the Tour is. And I got into the sport because of Hampton winning the Giro, so you would think that I would prefer to watch it. But I have not been watching it, but I did catch one thing. And the one thing I wanted to talk about here was Sepp Kuss doing whatever he was doing during his stage. I don't know the stage. I don't know what was going on. I think he was descending at that point and getting ready for like a run-in to the finish. And he had switched bikes, and he's riding along, and apparently the bike that he got when he switched was not shifting in the rear. So anybody want to give me the blow-by on what he did?
Change his battery on the fly.
Yeah. So he's got SRAM. He's got a front battery and a rear battery. He grabs the rear battery off the rear derailleur while riding, still on the bike, reaches all the way down, which those tall guys can do. Short guys, not so much.
He's off the saddle. Is he on
the top tube?
No. He's off the saddle.
Oh, he's standing up and
No,
doing that?
he's
No,
leaning. He's like
off the
chest,
back.
Oh,
chest
off the
on the
back?
saddle.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
Yeah, and he ditched the battery off the rear derailleur,
he just
grabbed the
yanked it and
front
tossed it.
battery and moved it, put it on the back so he could shift.
Now, a couple of key things with that. I want everybody's response is that he was only able to do that because of the SRAM's design. So in ETAP Access and ETAP, they use a two-battery system, one on the front derailleur, one on the rear derailleur. And they are independent from each other because the whole system is wireless. You can't transmit power without wires, which is its key defining thing that sets it apart from Shimano. Shimano has a central battery, wires that run to the two derailleurs. So the short part of this is, and I'm going to ask it what everybody's taken, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Is this a good thing about SRAM's design, or is it a bad thing?
It's both, in my opinion. I've run both electronic from Shimano and SRAM, and there are pros and cons. I like the interchangeable of the batteries. I like the fact that if I'm smart and I keep a spare charged battery with me, and I've had this happen, not even to me personally, but I had it happen to somebody I was riding with on a mountain bike, they got on their bike, started riding, and their battery was dead. And I pulled one out of my Camelback, and I was like, here, and saved the ride. It's nice that you can always just throw a battery in and then keep on going. If you're with Shimano and you have a dead battery, you have to find some place to go plug in and hope you happen to have the right charger cable with you. So that the advantage I think that I liked about SRAM was that you could always just kind of like keep a spare battery with you and change it. The downside that I see to it is, and I, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't done anything that could have fixed this, is that the minute the bike is moving, not even being ridden, but it's like on a caravan, it's on a bike rack, whatever, it wakes the system up and it's causing battery drain. So you have to be aware of that. So if you happen to have spare bikes or backup bikes, like I'm sure this team has, the mechanics have to make darn sure that they are keeping all those batteries constantly topped off, even if those bikes are not being ridden. Now, I don't remember the article. Did it specifically say that fixed the problem and he was able to ride? I thought it said that there was something else.
No, there was. I don't think so. He wasn't able to shift in the rear. He was able to shift in the front. He put it in the big ring. He took and it was. He decided that it was the battery, so he chucked the rear battery, grabbed the front one, put it on the back, and he was able to shift. But I do think that he stopped again for another reason, and maybe got
according to the article I just perused, he wasn't able to get the battery on there to allow him to shift. He actually had to continue pedaling at a high rate of speed to get, and then stop to try to navigate it. So the effort of simply trying to do that on the fly is what is like super commendable, also super dangerous, but I think it's also a good understanding of what your equipment does, right?
Exactly.
So you can fix it on the fly.
Yeah. The fact that he was able to do what he did is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I didn't totally. I mean, the reach around, it's like one hell of a reach around.
The reach around of all reach arounds.
I mean, really, it's something that's pretty cool to see. I mean, it's pretty far and down low. That's a low part of your bike. So to reach backwards while controlling your forward speed while steering to get back there, like that's unique.
If you watch it, there's a couple little shaky moments. It's kind of interesting. And he's saying,
well, that's the thing, dude. You crash like that, the risk is pretty high. It's not worth the reward. No bike race is worth that reward. He's 508 down, right? So if they're on stage 7, that means he's still within like striking range if you get into the mountains, right? So he's trying to maintain his gap to where Roglic is. Roglic, whatever you want to call him. Anyways, so he's taking a risk that I don't know is necessarily worth the reward, but you could just hop off and get it on and go. It's no faster. It's way worse of a situation if you crash than if you just stop and address the battery issue. So, the big
thing for him is his car was not there. It was far enough back that he had to do something or he was going to lose a ton of time.
It's an awesome maneuver. I would have stopped. Because it's already hard enough. Like, you're not saving any time. You're wasting more time by coasting along trying to fiddle with it than just stopping and getting back up to speed with 2 batteries. Now, if one battery is dead, I mean, just knowing that this is an option that I think is sick, and his willingness to try it is sick. But the probably most efficient method would have been to stop.
Yeah.
Tim?
No, I watched it. I was like, that's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, straight up, I don't care what we all know what the consequences would have been if it went awry, and it would have made for some spectacular television. Thankfully, it didn't go that way. But to even have the balls to try something like that is next level.
Yeah, benefit to the design, not a benefit to the design.
Oh, I think it's great. I think the interchangeable of batteries and being able to swap one, if you're, like Leah said, if you have problems with one, you have another one, provided you're not in a 1x setup. But I do have an ETAP setup, and like Leah, I always carry it. If I'm going on a long adventure, I always bring a charged full battery. So I think that in the back of my mind, though, I'm always cognizant of that because I'm always fearful of having a battery die on me and being stuck in like the hardest gear way far from home.
Yeah.
I don't want to experience that.
Yeah. And so on my take, I agree, but it's with caveats. In my take, to Leah's point, if the accelerometers wake up the batteries or wake up the system, which draws on the battery, So if you're moving one of the bikes around with this group on it, and you've got the batteries on the trailers, they're getting drained the whole time that they're moving because they're looking for a signal to come in. They have to, because how else do you work a wireless system? It has to know when it's supposed to look for a signal and when it's not supposed to look for a signal.
Do you know how my new Shimano does it? Because it's wireless from the shifters,
Yeah.
and I've had to get used to this. It's so the first time I go to hit the shifter, nothing happens, but it wakes it up, and I have to hit it again in order to get the shift. And what I've noticed is if I'm riding for a long time in a gear and I haven't shifted in a while,
It shuts off.
it shuts off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That I haven't known. So I'd be with 12 speed because it's semi-wireless. The shifters are wireless. The rear of the system is wired. Because they would have the same battery drain.
Yeah.
Because they got to be looking for a signal as well too.
I don't think it has an accelerometer in it, dude. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
a
no,
switch
they
with
do.
a battery
They
terminal.
do.
It has an accelerometer in it.
Yes.
Yep.
In the
What is that?
batteries.
Yep.
What is on the
Or in
battery?
It, to
trailer.
wake up the system.
Yeah.
So that it's ready
Interesting.
to receive a
So that
signal.
it has like it's like an auto off shut off until you move it. How long does that stay on though? Because like, I mean, if it's shutting off on your ride,
They
you know,
they have on
No,
the,
the Shimano does, just because it doesn't have I don't think it has an accelerometer. I think it's just, it wakes it up when you hit the shift paddle. That wakes the system up.
that's what I
It
mean.
doesn't-
Yeah,
It does not have an accelerometer. The SRAM
the
does.
SRAM does, for sure.
interesting.
And they've done iterations, I believe. I mean, somebody at SRAM could correct me, but they've done iterations where they've changed how the accelerometer wakes up, how long it stays active for, how often it's looking for a signal, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to sleep after a period of time. Obviously, when you're riding the bike, it senses movement, so it stays on. But unfortunately, then it's also on when it's riding in the back of your car or on your rack.
So that's the big thing. So they always say, for anybody that's running any of these systems, on the SRAM side, if you got to take a long trip with the bike, just take your batteries off.
Yeah.
And throw the bike in the car, and then
never
One more
ever
thing
done
to
that.
remember,
Yeah.
and not lose.
Never did that.
it will just aid in that. But so on the Shimano side, honestly, so my take on this was instantly, if it was Shimano, it wouldn't have been dead. By using a larger central battery with more capacity, it has the ability to drive either motor in the system, and either the whole system would be dead or to be working. And also the Shimano battery, you charge it, it'll go. I mean, for these guys, I don't know how long it'll go, but for somebody like me, it'll go for 2 months, 3 months, maybe even 4. It really depends on how much you're riding, but it has way more capacity than the SRAM batteries do, and you don't have to change it. To Leah's point, though, if it was dead, then you're off the bike. I mean, there's no saving it. I mean, you got to go and charge that for hours and get it back up to. You can charge it for like 20 minutes getting up to finish it, but you're not doing that in the middle of a race. So it's kind of one of the drawbacks of having an electronic system. Benefit, though, in their design, in that because of how it's designed, he had the ability to think of a solution, and he tried to actuate the solution to the problem. And I think that's amazing. I think that's great. So I don't want to sit here and necessarily bash the SRAM design. I think it's got some very good, valid points to it. And I think the Shimano design has got some very good, valid points to it. I think we've got 2 really good systems that are available and working.
Yeah, I think what goes into that system, I mean, the torque on the servos, just to switch the gears under load and then hold it there is pretty interesting. So does it stay under power when it switches? Like, how does it shut off? Does it latch? I'm not familiar with the ETAP stuff or the Shimano stuff because I never used it.
I don't want to.
Does it move gears or?
No, does it stay under power to hold it in position under the gear? And no, it's got a clutch in it, to my knowledge, which holds it in position.
And it's interesting, like, it doesn't seem like it's very often that the spare batteries are dead on the pro bikes. You never really hear about it, right? So they have the capacity, but it'd be interesting to have like a bracket that just had a different battery port where you could reach it if it was really a problem, but it's just a one-off thing where they just forgot to charge the battery.
Or
the battery's just old.
Or it could have been a bad battery. Every once in a while, there's defective stuff.
Or what the charge cycle was on it. Yeah,
everybody does.
If they've been plugging this battery in every night for 2 seasons
and not discharging it, and then
didn't realize that it's the same battery they've been running for a couple seasons or what have you. Although they haven't been running for a couple seasons because they switched to SRAM in
that was
November.
That was recent.
I wonder if they test their batteries, if they have the battery testing, if they ever check it, because there is a charge
Charger's
life on them. Yeah.
The Charger has a self-test, I think, as a part of its firmware. But again, somebody can correct me on that.
Talk about the sprint relegation.
Yeah, but real quick, I wanted to go back to the Sepp thing real quick. I mean, in that article, they were saying about the UCI rule that you have to stay in touch with your saddle. I never knew that.
Oh.
So that's why he's also, so not only is he steering his bike, he's trying to stay in touch with the saddle and reach back and, so it's something else. I mean, but yeah, there's a rule evidently you cannot leave your saddle like when you're riding or to make an
How do you
adjustment.
stand
How do you
climb out of the saddle?
It must have something to do when you're like trying to mitigate a problem. I don't know.
I think it's when you're descending as he was doing, no,
So you don't
sometimes
take unnecessary risks.
no doing the super tuck or anything like that.
You got to be able to stand on descent because that's where you're going to have to go to the bathroom occasionally,
I don't think that
or
rule
adjust.
applies.
Yeah. Well,
I would like to say I even thought the road was wet.
It was.
That's even crazier.
Yeah.
That just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's. I'll say it. You can't. You couldn't fit Sepp Kuss's balls in a pickup truck. Definitely not in a Ford Ranger. Maybe a 150, but we'll see.
I became a fan of his during the tour last couple of years. So he's gone up another notch.
He's very humble.
Yeah. No, I like him. He's definitely one of my favorite racers at this point. But the whole
Mountain biker.
SRAM zip thing, I did want to say. So it led me into, obviously I'm not going to poo-poo, and I'm not poo-pooing the SRAM design. And I had a unique experience this week where I had a customer call me up who had a brand new zip wheel, and they thought it was slightly out of true. Whatever. It can happen. He bought a brand new bike, very expensive bike. I won't mention the name. But it's like, are you going to give me, it wasn't Canada, it wasn't Trek. I guess it was Specialized. It was a Swerks SL7, and he had a nice, zip NSW, whatever version it was. And he had taken it on a few rides, and apparently the wheel had come slightly out of true. It was apparent within a couple seconds of this conversation that this guy is very particular about, the bike. And, you can't blame him. That bike is what, 15 grand or whatever at this point.
Yeah.
So, he wanted it.
Perfection.
Yeah. And you can't blame him. So he called and he talked to them. And apparently the answer that they gave him, they told him to contact me and have me true the wheel, because I was supposedly the local expert in working on high-end wheels.
No, kudos to you.
I on the one hand, I don't know if that was a compliment from SRAM and Zip, if they were paying me a compliment, or if B, they didn't want to deal with the exacting needs of the customer and wanted to pawn them off on somebody, and therefore it was my quote-unquote punishment that they could dish out to me. But I'm going to go with
50-50.
I'm going to go with it was a compliment,
Go with that.
Even though all the horrible things that I've talked about SRAM over the years, occasionally some nice things can come out of it. So I've got a place to go with this, but I don't know if you want to hit that sprint relegation.
Yeah, I don't know. Has everybody here watched the whole issue with the sprint yesterday? And
Cavendish?
Yeah.
Was there relegation?
Yeah, the other guy that came across, I forget his name. What was his name? Do we know his name?
I don't know.
So they relegated him for causing the crash of Cavendish.
Cavendish said in his video that he just hit the gas when he was on the slick paint, and that caused his wheel to go over.
When you watch the video, I
didn't watch it.
Yeah, no, I watched all the video and the analysis and everything this morning, and they were talking about it at the beginning of the stage today and everything, and it was like, I don't know.
I just saw a finish line photo, and Cav was on his back, and everyone around him was on their bike.
The finish line photo where he's like,
yeah.
I don't think it's anything that's like hugely
That
dramatic.
is not what happened. Well, okay, he got the front wheel.
It looked a little bit like
He's
just a
coming
bad
offline.
combination.
The guy is taking a fairly aggressive line and overlaps the front wheel with Cavendish. So he gets relegated because he's not holding his line in a certain amount of space, but he's actually accelerating past the 3 guys. So the guy had a shot at winning the freaking race.
Well, that's the other thing. That was the point, was like Cavendish was kind of going backwards. And the guy that came across Cavendish's wheel was probably under the assumption that he was past him because Cavendish was going backwards at this point. He had actually stopped pedaling for a second, and you could tell like he wasn't fully committed to the sprint at that point. The other guys trying to move forward thought he saw the space to do it. I think it was just a bad combination of
You're right.
lines.
Cavendish is acquiescing. You're right. He is sitting up there, and he knows he's not gonna win it, so he's already sitting up, and the other guy is accelerating and overlaps.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I love the armchair sprint analysis that we do after the fact. Because you're like, well, I think the other guy thought he was just, as well as I do, all this happens in split seconds without a thought. It's just instinct.
Like, I am a huge fan of Robbie McEwen. I loved watching him, and he was talking about looking at it today, and he was just like, oh, this happens all the time.
All the time.
Like,
but Cav is also cutting right.
Combination.
Cavendish is cutting right almost just as much as the other guy is coming left. So,
Cav was saying that he slid out on the paint, and that the rear wheel slid on the paint when he hit the gas, and that pushed him right. That's why he went right. And if you look, his wheel does jump off the paint. But if the aerial shot, you can see the overlap. You can see his body being thrown. He's already trying to counterbalance it. It's not his wheel sliding out. He's getting overlapped in the front end, and he sees it coming. And you'll have to watch from the aerial shot. Like, he's already trying to oversteer the bike to the left by leaning into it, so the guy gets enough time to get around him, but there's not enough time because they're merging. Yeah. It's actually really an interesting sprint, and it's wet, and there was a lot of crashes that day. I did watch this yesterday. And the crash scene is crazy because, it's an accident like that where, depending on the circumstances and what you're hitting, it's a game changer. It can be a game changer. Cycling is so fucking dangerous, and there was a great picture of him I saw sitting on the pavement. I don't know if it's like just caught in the moment where he's sitting up, it was just a perfect shot, but I can imagine him thinking about, like, is it fucking worth it? I mean, he's got so much to live for now with his kids, so yeah. He's got, the reason I think he's still racing is that he has a legitimate shot at, taking a 100%. Record that would be hard to beat. So, right. I'm happy to see him racing, and I am bummed to see those guys go down, but I am looking forward to the tour for him being one of the reasons. Yeah, I would agree with you 100% on that assessment. So, it's, it's a shitty thing to have happen. It's sprinting. But, what I wanted to say was, yes, it's dangerous. Yes, these things kind of happen. But if you're listening and you haven't tried racing, by all means, go out and try racing. It's not as dangerous as people make it out to be. Yes. I'll rephrase that because you're absolutely right. It's not that dangerous. When you get to a point, it's actually quite controlled. But there are circumstances where things happen, and when things do happen, it can be a pretty bad crash. Anyways, I'm surprised that no other teams picked up Cavendish. It almost seems like what are they so afraid of that he's going to take the record for? There were a lot of negotiations with a lot of teams, and we'll never know the whole story on that. I think it comes down to what the goals of the team are, and if you have Cavendish, there's maybe an assumption that now the goal of the team is to help Cavendish get those sprint wins, where maybe they have other goals with their team and they don't want to be focused on that. And he was not just joining any team. He was going to have to join a team that he had a reasonable shot of putting together something to help him win. Right. Still hasn't found it. Yeah. Yeah, I would 100%. Not saying agree. That he doesn't have the ability. I'm saying he doesn't have the team around him. Right. Case Bowles really good and very strong, exactly. But he's not gonna lead him out from 5K to go and be there with 500 meters to go for him. I mean, you get Cavendish in the tour, he'll win a stage. The team needs to be 100% behind that goal. I think I would agree if he can have the day where he feels great, and even if his team's not around him, and he can freestyle wheels and surf wheels, and it works out perfectly, he absolutely can. Yeah, it'd be great
It'd be great if he didn't win all tour and just won on the Champs and got the record. Oh,
let's
that'd
be very
magical.
clear here. You do not need a team to win a field sprint. You
No,
just need to know how to
look at
ride
Peter
the field.
Sagan.
Yeah. Yeah. I
He's
mean,
one
it
of the
helps
best.
to, to have the lead out to sit there, but it's hard to sit back there. It's sometimes easier to be in the bunch a little bit farther back, but that's not always, it really depends on the sprint,
Yeah.
and that level of sprinting is it's just different. It's just different. I remember, it just being afraid, which is the wrong
Yeah.
feeling you want to have when you're like going 40 miles an hour, literally actually 40 miles an hour,
yeah.
with in Italy with all kinds of shit in the road, police officers doing this and dude, like
dogs.
yeah. I mean, it's just,
Dogs
yeah.
jumping
So,
out.
and not every sprint is like that either. So it's just sketchy when you're, yeah.
But it
any
seems like-
sprint's sketchy though.
It seems like as of lately, like the last year of really bona fide sprint stages that I've watched personally, they look just littered with all sorts of dangers in the road, roundabouts and like you were just saying, Mike, with policemen and all sorts of different things. And that it's just maddening. When I watch it, I get like, I'm stressed out for the riders and I'm just sitting on the sofa.
That's
But
what
has
people
that really even changed? I mean, that's kind of
It's always been the same.
It's always been there, right?
I don't know. It seems like they're, or at least maybe it's been that way, but the riders are more vocal about it.
It's been that way. Riders have always been vocal about it, but they have been saying it's been getting worse.
Yeah.
And they've been saying it's getting worse, not because of the race promoters or anything else like that. It's because generally on all those courses, they've been adding more traffic controls.
Right.
The cities
more
have.
infrastructure.
So,
sure.
I mean, just by the nature of what we're trying to do with controlling traffic, we're creating these really dangerous, bike race finishes. But I mean, to
or
an extent,
roundabouts
they can't
or
do
whatever
anything about it.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, probably in the last 5 years, steadily, year by year, the speed of the peloton has gone up.
Yeah, and you have
exponentially.
stronger guys going to the finish too. I mean, if that level's going up, that there are guys strong enough to be able to finish. So you have more guys.
Yeah.
This is all because of marginal gains. I blame marginal gains. So if you're a fan of marginal gains, you're part of the problem.
They're out there.
Sure,
They're out there.
I think that's one thing that people forget though about racing bikes is you are racing. Let's just use the sprint example, or you can use a climb too or descending, but like it's you're driving this vehicle. It's just you driving the vehicle. You don't have a gas pedal. You don't have 4 disc brakes, or 2 massive disc brakes on, like you have the whole body's moving. You're like, it's a different level of control. So when you're coming into the finish and assessing just mentally all that crazy shit coming at you while navigating inches from other riders, doing that speed, trying to position yourself and navigate your bike through that stuff. It's like really, like to be able to read that situation calmly and stay collected and in the moment is really challenging to do. And I don't think people respect, when they're racing, when you watch it on TV, it looks easy, but it's fucking intense.
You know what I would like to see is I would like to see real time in race footage of onboard cameras front and rear of riders like they have, but they always seem to show the footage after the fact on social media platforms. They show it, what it's like and the intensity of it all. I want to see that when I'm actually like watching the last 10K. And the madness and just the momentum and the speed just build and build and build, and people start shouting at each other. And like the absolute madness that the final 5K is.
It is not.
You
comforting.
guys all know.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't appear like just from watching it. It doesn't look comfortable.
You guys have all seen the videos after the fact where they show some sprints, and they're showing the contact and people bouncing off each other, yelling at each other, and stuff like that. And I don't know about you guys, but when I watch that, I get charged up. I absolutely love it.
It doesn't charge me up. I'm just like, wow. I think I'm in awe.
Yeah.
My jaw's on the ground, and I'm like, I can't believe that these men and women are doing this. This is insane to me.
That's like that sprint of Skylar's that we talked about when that happened. And just how it all unfolds and the screaming and then then the recovery and the victory,
It's my favorite place to be is the last 3 laps of a race.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting chills thinking about it, but
I like to get away from all that.
I used to live and breathe and dream it all the time, and now I'm content being away from. I still like competition, but I'm content being away from all the craziness.
All the swapping paint. All right, so
What's next, Rob?
well, I mean, I wanted to do the whole SRAM zip thing, talking about quote unquote. I don't want to say necessarily making amends, but trying to keep a more neutral spiritual cycling industry karma, so to speak. And it led me into a specific situation that I had today. And I've got to think about how to tell this in a certain way because I want to still be professional, I guess. But this has come up from time to time where I've talked about it through the years where I say, that there's people out there that just don't like me, don't like what I'm doing, what I'm a part of, or whatever. And it's always seemed strange. And I have had people come up to me at races and go, you keep saying that. Is that really true? Do you really think that there's people that are quote unquote out to get you, or are you just being paranoid? I have always kind of known that it's true, but yeah, every now and then you get like a vivid, yes, it's true. So this week, I had a discussion with somebody in the industry who was talking in a local shop. I know this for you. This is getting too heavy of trying to come up with other names for people.
This is your story. Tell it.
But they were talking in another shop and wondering why they weren't necessarily carrying our brand. And the person's reply was, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. We had a falling out at a race, and I will never support his brand. And I knew who it was just from kind of what he was saying, and I just kind of laughed at it because of the expression. We had a falling out at a race. So I kind of want to share this experience and just say that it's an entertaining tale. So 13 years ago or so, at least 13 years ago, we were doing our regular group ride out here in Barrington Hills, and we would meet at a place called the Penny Road Pub. This has a point. Penny Road Pub, at that point, we had like 15 riders, 20 riders showing up on a weekly basis. It was a Tuesday night group ride. Well, at the same time, there was another group that was kind of using the same roads. Now, there were a lot of groups using the same roads, but this particular one would come in and pick up one or two riders that were deciding to park at the same pub. And they kind of did it roughly at the same time that we were there. And it always just kind of seemed weird. I was like, why are they joining our ride? Well, so we get collected, we get ready to go. So we roll out of the parking lot. These guys are like, rabid dogs. They see something move and they want to jump on it. So we rolled out of the parking lot and they just took that as, okay, I guess we're going. And they all jumped in with our group. So we're rolling down the road and these guys are like all over. Now, I do need to mention that this happened during Super Week. So it was during the week. You always had one day off. Maybe it was two. I don't remember, but there was always one day off. And it happened to be on a Tuesday. And so this was kind of like our recovery ride for Super Week. We had been racing for the last few days. And this was like a way to go out and just kind of free up the legs, but not get crazy. And so we're rolling down the road. And already this other group is like swarming all over. And they are all over the road. They are from like yellow line to the shoulder. And then they're easily jumping over into the oncoming lane, moving up and then coming over. And it's like, and they've got maybe 20, 25 people in their group. So it's a large group we're rolling down the road with. And it's not the way I ride at all. I don't like being in groups like this, but you can tell when it's that kind of group, when they think they have critical mass so they can like do whatever the hell they want to do on the road. And what is a car going to do about it? That kind of thing. And so they're all over the place. They're riding like shit, honestly. And I'm trying to tell our guys to kind of hang back, but these guys are strong guys. So our guys want to get in there and kind of play around. And they start doing this pace line. And it's annoying the hell out of me. It's not a right pace line. And I always just refer to it as a reverse pace line. And everybody always looks at me weird when I say it. So, I mean, Mike, you haven't heard this, so I got to describe this for you, and I'll use some visual aids here. But so you got, and the visual aids I'm using are Enzo's buttonhole chamois cream jars. So you have, this line of riders that are riding, correct, in a pace line. The rider at the front for rotation, what happens? The rider at the front pulls off into the wind and then slows down. All the other riders maintain their speed. So, a good pace line should be staying in its same place in space while the front rider just drops off. And then it just slowly kind of almost moves backwards because you don't want to see any acceleration. You just want to see some constant speed. Would you agree with that assessment, Mike?
So far, yes.
Okay. So,
depending on which way the wind's coming, but if there's traffic on that side, you can also rotate against the wind, on the safer side.
Sure.
Depends on the, depends on the situation. But yeah, so far, yes.
In a perfect world, no wind, no traffic.
yeah, you just have a rider
Just
pull
drifting
off
back.
and they
Yep.
drop
yep,
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. These guys, the way they rotate is they would be, so imagine the same line, rider in the back, pulls over to the side, sprints up to the front, and pulls over and is now taking the pull. So it's this constant rotation of somebody finding out that they're on the back and realizing they have to pull over and sprint to the front and keep it all rolling.
Were they
So it's
doing
these
some sort of
constant, like,
workout?
mini sprints. Apparently not. So I sat there. I was like, these guys don't even know how to. And it's crazy because I knew the guys. And I was like, some of these guys have been racing for 20 years.
Are you sure they weren't just trying to someone they did? I mean, were they trying to do a rotation, or were they just trying?
They were trying to do a rotation.
See, okay,
I had confirmation of this later, and I can get to this.
okay.
So they were
okay.
doing a rotation, and this is how they were doing it. And I sat there. I got so mad about them spreading out and doing weird stuff and just riding in an unpredictable way that I found the guy that owned the shop that they were based out of. And I saw him and I said, you are not going to come on to my ride and ride this way. And he looked at me, scrunched up his face and went, what do you mean your ride? This is an open road. Anybody can do whatever they want. And I was like, all right, this is, now granted, it's been 13 years. Okay. So I may have missed one or two words, one way or the other. I almost guarantee I had an F word thrown in there, or two. So I'm like, this isn't hit me the right way. I don't like this at all. We shouldn't be doing this. This is supposed to be a recovery day, because of Super Week and everything else. So we make our way up and we're getting to this section where I'm like, I do not want to ride with these guys. And I can see that everybody else on my team wants to. And I looked at some of them. I was like, don't rotate in. And then I could see they were kind of chomping at the bits. They wanted to get in there and rotate. And I was like, you know what? Fine. You guys can rotate in if you want. I'm done. I'm out of this. And so they were there's one or two that were working in. Well, about the third time through this rotation, this one guy, who I now know, but turned around and looked at me and was like, you're just going to sit in? You're not even going to rotate? Come on. And, giving me shit. And I was just like, yeah, no, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. So we were coming up to a turn, and I was like, if they go straight, I'm turning. If they turn, I'm going straight. So I'm setting it up. I'm looking to see what they're going to do. I look behind me. There's no one behind me. I know what's going to happen. And I was off wheel enough that I wasn't going to mess anybody up. I'm not an idiot. We get up to this turn. They go straight. I'm like, all right, I'm out of here. See you guys later. And I took off. I took a hard left. They all flipped their lids. Like, who is this guy riding in our group that doesn't know what the hell he's doing, taking turns, out of nowhere, doing this super risky behavior, after they've been riding across the double yellow line, riding 4 and 5 abreast and doing weird ass rotations and everything else. They jump my shit. I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to go do my ride. So I go and I do my ride. And this is like 5-6 miles later. I'm sitting there and this shop owner comes rolling up. with one of the other guys from the ride. And it's like, and they're like, hey, we want to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And they come up and they're like, you really need to learn how to ride. You're riding in an unpredictable way. You can't just do that in the middle of a group. You're going to cause an accident. And I was like, first of all, you're not going to come. I went off on a huge tirade. And I was like, you're not going to come on here onto my ride. And he's like, what do you mean your ride? I don't see your name on it. And I was like, the hell you don't. Do you see all those jerseys where on the back it says Penny Road Pub? And we were sponsored by the Penny Road Pub at that point because we started out of there. They sponsored the team, everything else. I was like, you don't see those jerseys with the Penny Road Pub on there? He goes, well, yeah, for the Cymet ones. And I go, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Cymet. And he goes, you're Cymet? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well, why didn't you say something? I go, I did. And he still chose to ignore me. And he literally says this. He goes, well, you weren't wearing a kit. How was I supposed to know? And I was like, so many things went through my mind. And the first thing that went through my mind is, so in essence, you're telling me that because I wasn't wearing a team kit, you would have treated me, you just assumed I was a chud. And you assume anybody not wearing a team kit is a chud, and you're going to treat them like shit.
Chud?
Whatever.
Fred? Fred?
Sure. I'll go that way.
No, keep Chud. Chud's good.
That tells me
Chud
the level.
is the new one. I like that.
That tells me the level of respect that you have for people, for general people. It's an ego thing. The guy was obviously a outrageously egotistical rider.
This is the guy who owned the shop.
Yes, okay. Yes. And he did race through the 80s and 90s. I know that for a fact. That's also another key point because this obviously was happening in the later aughts. And I go, yeah, you know why I don't have a kit on right now? Because it's the middle of goddamn Super Week. And we've been racing and all my clothes are dirty. And I go, you would know that if you actually raced your bike. And I was like, all of you guys don't even race. You come out here to do your Tuesday night ride, and that is your one race. Because you can't man up and toe the line anymore. And that struck a chord, I think. So we're, I'm rolling down I'm just like, and so you come out here, and he had to chase me down with another rider.
Well, it's interesting. It was 5 or 6 miles later. It's quite some time after the fact.
So they were stewing over it, and he had to roll up with another rider, and the other rider was there basically to give him like physical support.
Oh yeah, he's
for the confrontation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I said, I go, why is this guy here? Why'd you bring the meathead?
Emotional support backup.
I flat out said that. And I know to this day I know who that is. I remember who that is.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, you're not saying it to the guy personally. You're just recounting
I said
the emotion. Okay.
I literally said, why did you bring the meathead? What are you going to do? Try to kick the shit out of me or something? And so this was going back and forth. And I was basically like, when it all kind of boiled out, when he realized he didn't know who I was, he didn't know that it was actually our ride, because why would there ever be anybody else out on these roads that know what the hell they're doing? They're, God's gift to riding a bike. And so we obviously were out there riding with them. And so we needed to get with their program. And I go, and why were you doing a reverse pace line? He goes, what do you mean a reverse pace line? I go, you were rotating backwards. You had the rider from the back sprinting to the front. And he goes, well, I don't think you know what you're doing. He goes, in fairness, most people don't really know how to do a real pace line. And I went,
oh, like you?
That's really interesting, but whatever. Hopefully you didn't teach anybody on my team.
There's a lot of projection going on here from this guy.
Oh my God. So I finally, we're like rolling in, and I was like, and I laid out into him. I was like, what, you talk to normal riders like that? If you don't know me, you don't know who I am. And you were chasing me down to teach me something, apparently, and you brought muscle to do it. What I mean, are you doing this to new riders? Is this how you get people to join? And this was the era where we had a very distinct problem in the roadie community with this very elitist attitude and projection that we were throwing out. This guy was doing nothing to fix that at all. So I am like, my stomach is boiling right now because I remember my emotions in that moment. I would have given anything to drop the bikes and go at it. That is a problem with me. that is my own issue. I have learned since then how to step back from those kind of situations, hopefully, and not get as wrapped up in it. So we're getting towards the end of it, and he's just like, well, maybe this was all just a big misunderstanding. Maybe we should just all learn how to listen to each other a little bit better.
Oh, he's taking
I
the
was
constructive route now. He's taking the constructive
Yeah,
route.
he's taking the constructive route, but still blaming me for part of this. And I was like, in my head, I'm sitting there thinking, I told you not to do this on my ride. You still insisted on doing it. When I decided that I could not be in this ride in good conscience, I decided to leave it. And you decided to chase me down to try to give me an education. And yet I'm not being constructive by trying to avoid the conflict.
That is strange. That is a strange length
it's
of
a
behavior.
totally self-centered, egotistical kind of point of view,
Now,
which I can understand.
There's probably two sides of the story. I'd love to get this guy. We should get this guy on the podcast and have a whole debrief about what.
I think that's a great idea.
It's never going to happen. So anyway,
anything is possible.
Saying this at the end. He's saying this at the end, and I just I know I left with a final tirade. It included some F-bombs and was to the essence like, fuck you, fuck your shop, fuck your company, fuck everything that has to do with anything with you forever. I don't want anything to do with you.
He said that to you, or you said it to him?
I said that to him at the time. I'm pretty sure.
That's a hefty explicit label.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, it's definitely, this is an explicit episode. So I get back, I'm done, I'm fuming, whatever. I knew who he was. He still really didn't know who I was. So for the next, 13 years, I will occasionally run into him. And I want to apologize now to anybody else that I've ever done this to. I have this tendency when you no longer exist in my world to look through you and not acknowledge your existence, that you're there, that you're a human being, anything. It's a very petty thing. It's not healthy. I don't want to continue to do that.
Is that the look you gave me yesterday?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Rob, that's a very powerful thing that you just said, dude.
Yeah. At least you're aware of it.
Oh, no, I'm aware of it.
Yeah, but what you just said about wanting to change that, I mean, you're not the only one who feels that, dude. That emotionality is a very strong thing. If you actually want to change that, you can. But, I mean, that's a pretty interesting thing you just said, dude.
So I think the reason why I do it is not to snub the other person. It's so that I don't get involved in a conflict. It's so that I don't have that argument at that moment. Because it's always the worst timing. It's always at some race or public get together or whatever, and you're having this great conversation, you're joking with somebody, having a good time, and you turn and here's the wet blanket that walked into the room. And it's like, I fight with myself internally, like, why are they a wet blanket to me? They shouldn't be. I shouldn't let them, quote unquote, rob my joy. I should be able to be enough of an adult to basically just acknowledge it for what it is. They're a human being, say hello, and move on. But I don't. So for years, I have seen this individual off and on. I have looked him dead in the eye and then right through him. Never said hello, never acknowledged his existence, but been hanging out with the people that are quote unquote on his team, shooting the shit. I'm good friends with a lot of them,
Dude, this is
everything else.
This is an elephant in the room that can definitely be cleared. I mean, that sucks, dude.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. But I'm not going to write it off completely. And it's one of those things where when I have mentioned this, because it comes up from time to time, when I've mentioned this story, because people will come up to me and go, "Oh, do you like this? What about this person?" And I'm like, I just don't work with them. And they're like, well, why not? Well, we just don't see eye to eye on stuff. Well, what do you mean? Okay. And if they're nice enough, I don't like throw this around, but obviously now I am. If they're nice enough individuals, I give them the backstory to it. And they will inevitably, if they've been around the scene for long, they'll say, oh yeah, that's how he is. The guy is a total egotistical douchebag. You just got to go look through it, And it's like, yeah, that works to an extent. At some point, though, he's still a human being. You got to treat him with some respect, So
you need to write this guy a song.
No, I don't. We'll play your
another
song.
way.
No, you're not playing my song. You're not playing that song. That's a private song.
Battle Royale, cage match.
We should do a sprint off at the track or something. I mean, I heard that's what he used to do.
So dude, I hear you saying a couple things here.
Okay. Well, real quick. So
in the Road is Dead therapy
not,
session, which is really good.
Yes.
Yeah. What is the point of this?
The point of this is not just to share the story, although it's a good story. It would be a lot better if you knew everybody that was involved and I could give you names. But
I'll email them.
It's an entertaining story. It's an entertaining story.
You absolutely could give the names.
Oh, there is absolutely no doubt that
we're not doing that.
Knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah, but we're not doing that.
Go and listen to this.
The end result of this is creating peace.
I'm kind of sweating here. Hold on.
Yeah, I know. So it's awesome.
It's definitely a conflict. It's a conflict. But here's my point in this. It's a conflict. It's a conflict that now affects me professionally. And this is one of those things where it's like, I don't care what we think about. I mean, I do care what we think about each other personally, but I can look past a lot of small, personal, interpersonal conflicts when it comes to business, because business is business. And I am of the opinion that I will still, if I can't support local, I'm not going to talk shit about them. You know what I mean? It's like, I learned that from the manufacturing industry where your brother is in, and I learned it from his position, because all those reps would tell me they didn't talk smack about other tools because they knew at some point they were going to be without a job and they're probably going to have to get a job with that company. And they were just going to blow their integrity if they talk crap about tools that they would probably end up having to represent at some point.
Tools.
So I learned a lot about how to not necessarily talk smack about other companies while doing that. So that gets me back to the SRAM thing and the zip thing is there's room in the industry to not talk smack all the time, to not always be hardlined one way or the other, and to try to keep your mind open and to try to look for some of the good in it. And so that's what I was trying to do. And the zip story kind of got me to, it was just an offhand thing that happened randomly this week. And it got me to kind of go, you know what? I think I need to put some better karma out there for certain situations and certain individuals. So,
I'm very proud of your growth today, Rob.
Yeah, the growth today, though, is because we're on the podcast. Let's see what I say when we're done.
Dude, but you haven't had growth yet. You've identified a problem. You've identified you've identified a situation that, dude, I totally think is fixable, where you wouldn't be losing business and you could actually probably talk to the guy. And I mean, you have some play in it too. You have to. It takes two people.
Why don't you just take your damn buttonhole over there
and just say, "Hey, here, I am sorry.
Take my buttonhole,
and I did not know how to approach you with this, and I want to create peace."
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel like when I see you in a room, I can't say hi. I mean, like,
ooh, I like this idea.
I mean, honestly, dude, you can take this whole elephant off your back, dude.
Be the bigger man.
I don't think it's an elephant, though. That's the thing.
What is it?
And part
I'm
of
sorry. When you're staring through
scenario,
somebody and it makes you feel weird when you go to a room, there is an elephant in the room with you, and that elephant's shitting.
Okay, hold on. So to get back to this whole, I found it interesting that he said to the other individual that we had a falling out at a race.
Yes, this is interesting.
It was not at a race. It was at a group ride. And my whole point during this falling out was that he didn't go to races anymore. And his team didn't go to races anymore. They just weren't racing.
So what?
I found it unique and interesting that this guy's ego is in such a place that he has to believe
maybe
that it happened at a race.
For sure. Whatever he wants to believe.
That was important to him.
And okay, weird behaviors, for sure. 1, facts wrong, it's not a race. 2, he chased you down for 5 or 6 miles. 3, he brought muscle. 4, like he there's a number of other.
I brought muscle.
Okay. I still want to drop and go, man. It's just like, let's do this.
Okay, so but dude, if he is in that frame of mind, just look at it as an experiment. Just walk in and embrace that like level of uncomfort and see where it goes. And then just with the whole mindset of just trying to make peace. And if he can't make peace with it, then it's on him. But then it's no longer on you. Yeah.
I think honestly, by throwing this out into the
universe,
I have made peace with it. I'm good.
Man.
I'm good. Because honestly,
you know what?
if I were to intentionally go face to face and have a discussion, this particular individual, I might just create another.
You're gonna walk in there and
what's going to happen the next time you see him?
I'll say hello.
There you go. That's step 1.
Yeah, just say hi. You just say, "Hey, dude, how's it going?" Yeah,
you walk in there, try to make peace, and then he's like, "Hold on," and and the same muscle comes out from in the back of the shop.
Let me. He's on back call.
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think if I should say his first name.
Spurs the whole
No,
thing.
no. That is
no,
not.
because
A,
I would
memories
say,
again.
I would say, hi, nice to see you, because his muscle still goes around in races from time to time.
good. I'm glad he's racing. The muscle's racing. That's awesome.
And I love those guys. I actually love those guys. They're some of my favorite people on the face of the planet. They still do not, and I will say this, and they will hear this because they do listen. They still do not know how to do a group ride for shit. They are the group that are out there in Barrington Hills, and the cops will come and talk to us and ask us, "Hey, have you seen this group that's about this big, wearing this kind of color stuff, doing whatever?" We're getting a lot of complaints about them.
That's a problem. That is a problem.
It's always been a problem.
But if that's actually happening, I mean, I don't know.
Happened, yes.
Has have they?
Yeah, they have a very strong reputation for that.
That's
We
a
had a lot of
bummer. That's a
conflicts.
bummer. Sorry, go ahead.
We stopped riding out there. We had a lot of conflicts, and the reason was because of the they were creating this environment that made it very confrontational between the people that lived out there, the drivers out there, and the police and themselves, and they single-handedly are the reason why there is now, which I still think we should challenge the legality of it if somebody really cared, but there is now a single file ordinance in Barrington Hills, and it was
that's a problem
soon
though.
after these kind of things.
I mean, obviously,
I actually, one of those guys was riding with me not too long ago in the same area and was riding side by side with me, and I was like, "Dude, in front or behind, man? Single file." I go, "We are in Barrington Hills." And he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
See
sure."
that sign? Your team created
like,
that sign.
And he still was then wanting to talk, so he came up alongside and he's talking, and I'm like, right up there at that stop sign is a cop. Please get in front of me or behind me, one of the two. There's some, but then again, I'm the guy that slows down at stop signs. If I'm not even fully stopping, I will stop at a stop sign.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, everything you're talking about does piss me off, because if you're a group out there and you're all over the road and you have no respect for the other users of the road, like that includes cars and other traffic, then it's not a group ride that I want to be on. I don't care about
group
it.
thing.
It's two abreast is great. There's a whole structure to riding in a group ride, whether it's 200 people or 50 people or 30 people or 10 people. Even if 5 people, and I mean, if there is an ordinance being put in place because they've had such problems with it, you can identify one, group of people that are doing it. That is annoying. That's annoying. So I don't know. It just sounds, is it the same group we're talking about? Same group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe walk in and say, "Hey, dude, let's make some peace. And if you can't make peace, leave them the butthole chamois cream anyways, an assignment sticker." I don't know.
It's
just
Road is Dead podcast sticker.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you would like a Road is Dead podcast sticker, go ahead and drop a line to roadisdead@gmail.com. All one word, roadisdead@gmail.com. Drop us some comments if you have any. I don't know. We're running right up against an hour, but I don't know if you wanted, Mike, if you wanted to talk a little bit about what was going on over in Europe.
Yeah, real quick. But I also got the mug out today.
There you go.
I'm always drinking something, but yeah, there it is. I honestly, so you have the U.S. race scene, and we've had some pretty good races the last couple months, and you have the European race scene, and one of the teams that has been doing a dual program, which I think is super rad, is Avolo. And we were talking about junior development, I don't know, a number of podcasts ago, and when you think about it, junior development goes from junior development into under 23 development and then into the pro ranks, right? So there's definitely a window that you need to fill, and the team does fill that gap. There's a number of other teams that doing the same thing, but Avolo is run by Mike Creed, my former teammate, a buddy of mine. And what I think is really cool is they're running a program in Gila and then a program in under 23 Roubaix. And there's a lot of legitimacy to that. To be able to run operations in 2 different continents and run different levels of racing at a high level, that's staff, that's bikes, that's equipment, that's travel, that's lodging, that's food, that's, like race registrations, all the whole 9 yards. And then going through that, you should check out the Evola team. Yeah, if you listen to this.
Without even the logistics side of it, that aside, the opportunity that provides for the riders has got to be
It's huge,
unbelievable.
dude. It's huge. Under 23 Roubaix, dude, they're racing the same roads in the mud. If you look at photos of those guys racing, it's rad. It's rad.
Yeah.
I mean, and that exposure as an under 23 rider, have a goal like that to shoot for is huge. To be able to like say, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to suffer through these races, I'm going to try to get better and better and better. So I have a shot at riding for a team like Evola or any other number of teams that are racing guys. But Evola, as far as I know, is one of the only under 23 teams going across the pond to race in Europe, which is rad.
That is cool.
And Cannondale is like Evola Cannondale, it's like two big sponsors on there. It's there's definitely a stepping stone there in terms of race exposure. You cannot get better in Europe unless you race in Europe. The racing is different.
Yeah.
A bike race is a bike race is a bike race, but those guys come over here and they don't just automatically win. The only stages they would ever like races they would have a shot at really were like stage races. You put them in a criterium.
Races, yeah.
And, maybe Sagan, I'm going to recant that because let's face it, it's turning in bike racing, but like the racing in the US is different. So,
well,
anyways.
I mean, even if you have a natural tendency to be able to do well in a particular style of racing, you still have to learn the local customs on how it's done and how to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the lifestyle, the food, the travel, just getting over their time change. So, I'm sure it was one hell of an experience for the team and for the guys. And I really, respect that. So,
all right. Well, I appreciate that. So real quick to wrap up, drop us a line, drop us a comment, leave a comment. We do enjoy hearing the comments and getting them. I've gotten a few over the weeks. Check out, obviously subscribe to us on YouTube if you can or would like. Go out and check out Buttonhole Chamois Cream. Go to your local dealer and buy it from your local dealer. If you can't, you can sometimes find it online, but ask your local dealer to stock it and bring it in for you. Say you'd like to try it.
I totally support that. You should check it out. That chamois cream is a good chamois cream. It is a good one. Dude, we can't end this yet until we talk about Peloton. That's a big one.
Oh, okay. 3 seconds on Peloton. Peloton ended up just issuing a recall today. So they issued a recall today on certain models. It's their basic model that they sold in the U.S. How many units are in the recall? Do we know?
It's like 2 million.
2 million.
2 million
2
units.
million.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 million, I thought. So 2 million units that they're recalling, and it is for the seat post breaking through use. Yeah,
That's a big
yeah.
one.
Can you imagine?
Through use? Did you say through use?
Yeah, while using it, their seat post is breaking. Can you imagine riding an indoor bike and having your seat post break? Especially,
at least you're not going to
especially in a
crash.
spin class way. No,
I had my
there,
seat break
it has
once.
resulted. It's something like it says in the article that I shared with you guys, but it's something like 30 some odd instances or like 30 some odd injuries. There's been quite a few injuries that they've
I
had,
can believe it. Yeah.
and that includes, cuts. Can you imagine that, getting cut by that seat post on the way down? People hitting the ground, falling off their bikes because of it. As we all know, though, I mean, an indoor trainer gets subjected to a lot of sweat, and sweat for some people can be very corrosive,
Not at the
especially
seat
to
post,
aluminum.
though.
No, to aluminum for sure.
Yeah, but not at
And,
the seat post. They're not going to be sweating unless
oh,
your
yeah.
ass is sweating. I mean, yeah, okay.
Mike,
There's some sweaty asses
some
out
people
there.
have sweaty asses.
I mean, it's possible. What the hell,
So,
I'm reading the article again. Yeah.
It's susceptible to some sort of failure. Obviously, they have saw a need to recall all this, and by the time you get to a recall, they've already jumped through a lot of hoops. So they have a solution that apparently is going to work. That's why they're recalling it. I know that it just means that they're going to send you a seat post, have you redo it, and if you can't figure out how to do it, let's face it, out of all the markets, that's a market full of people that don't necessarily know how to redo their seat post. They're going to have to probably swap them with another unit. Can you imagine the logistics costs associated with that? That's got to be staggering. So,
I mean,
in
it's
other
got to be a
words,
fairly
with this
simple
recall-
install.
oh yeah, it is. We all know it is. But to actually execute a recall along these lines,
Oh, yeah.
this
yeah.
is the investment
2
advice
million. That's a
corner
lot of units.
of the Road is Dead podcast. If you are still holding on to Peloton stock, which I think I have like one share still left. I would sell it.
Oh, come
I would get rid of
on.
it.
Oh, come on. I totally disagree with that, dude. Completely disagree with that.
They were on shaky ground as it was. I do not know.
Yeah,
how
because they had a blowout year in 2020, and they got a shit ton of people riding on an indoor trainer.
Yeah.
And because the pandemic ends, people, I don't know why they're not making the choice to continue riding their bike and making exercise a part of their daily lives. But,
not only that, they overproduced their units. They have way too many.
So to specialized,
overproduced
yeah.
their units.
Yeah.
Everybody did.
I mean,
They're
everybody
in
was
bad financial shape.
You're gonna sell your Wahoo stock?
I don't have any Wahoo stock.
Well,
Yeah,
If
I mean,
did, I definitely would sell it because they have been downgraded multiple times and they are not in a very good financial
everybody's
situation.
getting downgraded.
I support all these American companies. I mean, this is not even an American company, are they?
It's not an American company.
It doesn't matter.
They're
They're closing 784 jobs because of it, dude. That's not like
Because of this recall?
let me read. About 500 jobs would be cut.
Wow. No, I haven't seen that. Yeah, no, that sucks.
They have incredible sales growth during the height of the corona. Yeah. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is they sold a boatload of they made a shit ton of profit, right? And then they have to have a membership to their portal, right? That's how you use their product. So people are on their Pelotons, and then are they still paying for the service is it a paid for service? How does Peloton make the revenue?
They are. They're still paying for it. And right now, I don't know if you've seen the recent ads, but they're saying out of everything, they have like the highest percentage of people that continue to use.
Dude, that is
So,
a company
not
to
even-
invest in. That is a company to invest in because you're right in front of people's faces. You're promoting health and well-being in people's homes, which is why I like my Zwift and Wahoo setup. Okay, because it makes it easy. And if you have 2 million people willing to use a product,
I think you just proved my point, though,
what's that?
that you have Wahoo products set up.
But it's different. It's different. My
it's a
brother's got a
different
Peloton.
market.
Totally
It's
different.
a different market, and it's different riders. And I think that they did a lot to establish that market and to claim it. I think they've mismanaged themselves quite a bit, and it's just the wrong time financially to have this kind of problem. So I'm just saying, if you have the stock, maybe sell it. Their market cap was ridiculous.
Are you going to sell your BMW stock? They just recalled like 2 million cars.
I have no BMW stock.
Let's see what it's trading at, dude. I mean, let's just see. I mean, come on.
It was at one point up to 70 something when I had it, and I dumped a lot of shares at that point.
I almost bought a Peloton, but then I was like, nope. That's it. Nope.
Are you seeing what it's at, Mike?
What is their ticker symbol?
PL or PTON, I think.
Peloton. Palo. P-lo.
Give me a second here. Dude, I don't want to. I promote. Okay, all right. PTON.
What's it at right now?
I'm going to give you a whole analysis here in a second. Let's see here.
I just need the number.
Is the arrow green or red?
I'm going to guess
down.
it's red.
It's down. It's trading at 686. Closed at
there you go.
The high today was 729, so it is going down. But that doesn't. Let's take a look at the chart.
I literally got in at like 15, and I ran it all the way up to 70 something. I dumped a lot at 70, and then I dumped the rest at 40 some, I think.
Dude, at 2 years ago, they were trading at 120.
Yeah. I believe that. They went back up. I got out quite a while ago. I was like, They didn't give me the warm fuzzies.
So how do you? I don't. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, and the reason why I invested was for the reasons that you mentioned, is that they were doing something. They're getting bikes out there, and I kind of went, if I'm not going to do well running indoor training sessions, then I'm going to do well owning their stock, kind of like investing in the competitor. And it's like you're going to lose one way or the other,
dude. I mean, their swing, yeah. Dude. The thing is like
their market cap was outrageous. Their market cap was something like $7 billion at some point, or like $100 billion or something.
Yeah,
it
so
was ridiculous.
What changed? Is it because people aren't using
they never
the
had
product?
that value? No, they never had that value. It was just pumped.
Yeah.
It was people saw it as
seeking out the
speculative,
stock. Yeah.
Investment. And so they bumped it up that high, and then their heads got full because they were like, "Look at this market," and then they were acting like they were worth that instead of what they were actually worth. What they're actually worth has a lot of value. It's just that they were overcapped. Their market cap was out of line. Anyway, this isn't an investment podcast, but it does have to do with bikes. So there's a
I think the one question is I would like to know how many people are still using their Peloton as much as they were during 2020. What is the choice to actually get the exercise in? You know, like, okay, so you have this huge jump in the value of the product because everybody wants it all at once.
There's our question for everybody for the day. If you're still using your Peloton, drop us a line.
I'm curious.
roadisdead@gmail.com. We'll discuss it if we get enough responses. It'll be something interesting. Apart from that, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and listening to us once again. And I will bid everyone adieu. Enjoy.
Ciao.